I'm changing out my motherboard and my CPU, and it's not even been 2 weeks of ownership. But here's why. So firstly, let's just take a look at how beautiful this PC is. Now the idea was to go with a white theme. However, the white theme slowly died when I started finding parts and pieces, and those parts and pieces that were actually white were just way too expensive. So mostly they're black. Not a problem with that, just a little offset from the white case. But such a beautiful build. Now, if you guys saw the video where I built this PC, you guys can tell I had a lot of trouble. Something is not correct. I regret building a PC. It's not very fun. So I have now had to take these heatsink off multiple times. It was just a major headache, and that's completely normal when it's your first PC. But if you saw the next video after that, you would know that this CPU and this motherboard have given me so many issues with connecting to LAN servers, wireless connection, and just overall input delay.
As soon as I get into a game, it is already up to 160, 190, over 200 milliseconds of latency.
But in this video, I want to tell you actually the reason why I'm switching motherboards and CPUs, and actually those 3 reasons of wireless connection, LAN connection, and input delay is actually pretty much a majority of it.
So unfortunately, as things seemed compatible, I guess they weren't exactly 100% compatible, meaning there was a lot of bugs and issues going on between the 2 brains of the computer, which in the end result meant a horrible connection and bad input delay.
So Intel versus AMD, why am I switching? The whole thought process is because I'm experiencing incredibly bad things with this AMD. Now, the kicker is that the CPU that I got is actually meant for workstations and not necessarily for gaming. The Intel i9-12900K has surpassed the CPU that I have now in single thread processing. So single thread processing is like the simple things, gaming, all that mumbo jumbo, but multi-thread processing is more so of the video editing, the software development, all the coding and stuff. So big differences there. Obviously, I don't do a lot of that stuff. It's mostly gaming. So the more cores, the better. Even if that is a 12 to 16 core processor, it's just not meant for what I'm trying to do. And that's perfectly fine because that happens quite a bit. Now, for those of you who are AMD fans versus Intel fans, I will say this. After doing a bunch of research, the AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D is the fastest CPU on the planet. But it comes at a hefty price at about $500, and it surpasses the i9 by a ton. So single thread, but also multi-thread processing. It's just weird because you think that going with a Ryzen 7 versus a Ryzen 9, you'd be like, oh, let me go with the Ryzen 9, and turns out it's not good. Kind of breaks my heart in a way of saying that like it was compatible, but obviously when you're doing compatible stuff, you do have to research everything, you read the reviews and all that stuff. It just doesn't want to work. So that's why we're switching to Intel. I think it's the best of both mediums. It's not a workstation, but it does give me enough power that is suitable for single thread and multi-thread processing, so like rendering. Again, 20 cores, awesome.
And then with my luck, the unthinkable happened.
I wish I could make this up, but I'm not. My AIO has decided to fail. So I turned my PC on this morning, and this is real time. That's the reason why you hear the fans blowing out so much and the blinking red light. This AIO has decided to fail.
So I thought I could fix it, but turns out there was really no way to fix it. I'd have to force an update on the AIO every single time I turned it on. And it continued to say pump failure, and there was no going back.
Okay, well, as of right now, pump is doing okay. I had to do a force update, and it's just, this is the second time I've done it in the last hour. It's not looking good. I don't know why the pump is not working, and I feel like it's an electrical issue, not so much the actual pump, because the CPU is not like it's not being cooled down. The AMD Ryzen 9 has like a soft spot between 40 and 60 degrees Celsius.
So listen, everything looked normal, but I think it's just time to rebuild this PC once and for all.
Unfortunately, today's the day we received the Intel i9-12900K CPU, plus a brand new motherboard for Intel 14, 13, and 12th gen CPU. So,
in order to put all this in, I had to take everything out. Essentially, the only thing that's staying is the SSD, the RAM, and the GPU. But then, check out the new CPU liquid cooler.
I bought a new one. This build has really turned from a $2,200 build to almost a $3,000 build. If I'm not mistaken, it might be actually over. Because the thing is, this guy was about 200 bucks more, and this guy was for sure about 200 bucks more. I know the box is a little damaged, but I think it should be fine.
So it's finally time to get to dismantling this PC, implementing the new parts, but I had to ground myself first, and now it's go time to get the new stuff.
That's not good. See, that's static. Time to put in the new motherboard. I'm very excited. This is how you put an Intel 12th gen, 13th gen, 14th gen into its socket. But this, as you can see, it says upside down, it's an LG 1700 socket. So, something I want you to notice, firstly, AMD was kind of cool because it showed the layout super well. And it was only going to go in one way, no matter what. You just have to be super careful. This one, you have to be a little bit more careful. This is the LG A1700 socket. They match up, they're compatible. But something I want you to notice is that there is a little triangle here, and then a little gold one here, which may not even pick up on camera. You want to match up, realistically, triangle to triangle. That is it. This will never go upside down. To get access to the motherboard pins, press down on this little lever, push outwards, up, and then bam. This guy here, want to be gentle. Drag that up and over. Now you have access to the pins. There's little notches on top and bottom. I don't know if you can see this, but we'll open this guy up just carefully here. This guy, top and bottom, little notches. But again, here's a little gold triangle, and unlike the AMD, where the AMD had it literally on the motherboard, where it's super easy and nice to tell, this one does not. So you just have to be careful and say that there's a triangle there. Always grab it by the sides here and try and never grab it on these little metal guys, because if you do, since your fingers have oils, it can be a disaster. But you just want to put it in there. Don't drop it. You don't want to bend a pin. And that's it. That is how you put a CPU in. But then the next step, obviously, just make sure that it's seated correctly. So maybe wiggle it just a little bit. I'm going to put this over. I'm going to press it in. Bam. And then bam. And this thing should be good to go.
And now that the motherboard and CPU were in, it is time to install the RAM and then the SSD. Matter of fact, it really doesn't matter which you go with first. And yeah, I probably should have put all this in before putting the motherboard in the case like you're supposed to, but I just wanted to make it difficult on myself. So, lesson learned, but whatever, I got it done, and this thing looks baller.
JFP1. There we go. Obviously, there's a lot of wire tucking to do. I get that, but as of right now, holy crap. This is literally a brand new PC. Wow. Okay, well, let's hope this one works. There's definitely a lot more wires than before. I now will have to do 3 SATA cables. Don't really know how that one happened. The only bad part is that this other fan, there's not really a place for it. Like for the RGB, this is an RGB hub, but the connection's a little different. Well, I think without further ado, it's just time to plug this all up. I'm pretty confident that everything on here is plugged up well. All right, well, it's literally just time to plug it in. All these different things.
And this was finally the time to see whether or not this rebuild was gonna work.
Okay, here we go. First time it's getting power.
And this was just not looking good. But then I decided to press the power button. So there's no actual standby lights that say the power is actually on anymore.
Just press this button and see what happens. Oh, there we go. Holy crap. Literally plug and play. I'm not kidding. Everything's here again. Wow. Dude. Could not be happier.